And then I think I have to do this. Go to Facebook, Fatchabook, with its new snazzy MySpace style thing. And okay, guys, I know you know that this is the part where you just have to wait a little bit while I get all my windows sorted. I've not yet sort of hacked this. Okay, there we go. And then I got to mute me there. Sweet. Comments are there. I can see that. I can see that there's people watching. Cool. Well, good morning, everyone. Let's bring this down just a touch. Here we are on Friday, May 29, a week after my birthday. If you didn't know that last week was my birthday, now you do. Mark your calendars. I'm planning on having that. I'm planning on doing another one next year. So get ahead of the game, book yourself, set that time, do yourself a favor now, set that time off, get in your calendar. That's going to be precisely 51 weeks from today. I have a hot beverage to start us off with the Tiger mug. Let's just have a sip of this tea. Ooh, hot. That's a tasty blend. This is Early Grey, which Bay informed me today is that's just when you drink Earl Grey tea earlier. Sorry, that was close. Earlier in the day, Early Grey. Later in the day, Lady Grey. It's later. So these are just some tea nomenclatures that may be of value for you. So let's see what I'm going to start off talking about. We haven't done any live coaching for a little bit, actually. 2 weeks ago, I was scheduled to jump on with Rafal Wolf, but Zoom and Facebook are battling with one another. There's an epic battle of titans going on, and they couldn't get the technology to work. So we just didn't. Hey, Mia, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. That reminded me of Vaughn from Community, who always said hi 3 ways. Hey, how's it going? What's up? Anyhow, so we didn't have live coaching then. The following week was my birthday. Again, remember, 51 weeks from now, my birthday will recur. Schedule that again. So it was my birthday, did a live on that. It was a good way. I had a very good birthday. For those of you that are curious, my parents came over. We had a socially distanced connection birthday party, I guess you could call it, where I ate my weight in cheese and drank my weight in wine, which is, that is perfect. That's perfection for me. I know that you're wondering this, and I'm going to tell you the cheeses we had an Irish cheddar. We had a jalapeno or jalapeno Monterey Jack, and we had a third cheese that was unremarkable to me. I don't even remember what it was called or the name of it. So that was pretty great. I'm just looking around my office to see stuff that there is for me to talk about. I'm filling time. This is the part of the live where I fill time and usually talk about what's going on for me. So there's a couple things I'm going to talk about. The first thing that's right here beside me on my desk says Vision Fast Preparation, which is, I don't know if it's freaking me out, but I'm like, oh crap, that thing I'm doing is real, where I'm going to be on a mountain, not eating food for a week by myself. So the way the Vision Fast is, the container, the ceremony of that is held by the shaman I've been working with out here called Naite. It is 7 days. 4 of those are by myself. So it's the 7 days is the entirety of the container. We break our fast on the last day. Leading up, there's some work that we do to kind of begin the ceremony, to call forth the spirits, to get ourselves situated. And then really for 4 days, I have a tent. I'll have a couple of tarps in case I need that. And if I understand correctly, I'll have a circle made up of prayer ties that I'll create, which are usually some kind of offering like cedar or perhaps sage or something, a little bit of bundle of cloth wrapped, and then I make a prayer for that and place it. So I'll have a circle surrounding me, and I'll be sitting there by myself for 4 days, not eating, drinking water occasionally, and being with whatever shows up. That's a freaky ceremony for me. It's not scary because I'm worried of like going crazy or losing my mind, or not even really worried about 4 days of not eating. I'm more concerned about the boredom and just like, I got to just sit here and do nothing. Like, what'll I do? Do I journal? Do I even get to bring a book? What am I going to do? It's going to take forever. And as part of the preparation for this, I did a medicine walk maybe 3 weeks ago now. What the medicine walk was is I rose at sun up and I just walked I fasted during this walk, and I walked my original intention was to walk until sundown. My body got so sore during this walk that I ended 3 hours earlier. So I went 12 hours instead of the 15 that would have been sun up to sundown. I took breaks, I rested, but man, walking for 12 straight hours, and it turns out my walk ended up taking me mostly on pavement, is hard work on the knees, or at least my knees. My knees were in a lot of pain. There's a lot of aching in my back. I don't have a great back. I've got degenerative disc disease. So my doctor tells me my back is older than I am in his charming South African accent. So I did that. And what I noticed happened on the walk was I was very conscious of how much time I had remaining. So I'd be walking, I was walking around, noticing what was showing up, what kind of animals are coming to me, what smells are present for me. Oh, there's some raccoons over there. And then like, okay, how long's it been? Oh my God, it's been only an hour and a half. It's only 7 o'clock. This is going to take forever. And it kind of did. It felt like it took a long time and dragged on. So it'll be interesting to be in the experience of this vision fast and to see how I show up in that, and to really get a good glimpse of myself in simply sitting still. So that's there. Another thing that's been really up for me lately has been the conversation around masculine and feminine and polarity. I had great running shoes, Michelle. Great. I had all the gear. I was really set, and good morning. And still quite painful. I was wearing hiking boots, so maybe those were too heavy. I don't know though. You and I did a lot of walking through Peru and Machu Picchu in those same shoes, and they served me very well. It's possible that the flat surface, instead of going up or downhill, was harder. I don't know. I guess we didn't really hike for 12 hours. It felt like we hiked for about 38 weeks, but I don't know. For those of you that don't know, Michelle came with me when Nathan and I ran our trip to Machu Picchu. She was, in fact, the only person that came, and we had an amazing trip together. It was really beautiful, really intimate, really profound. So that's where I went wrong. That makes more sense then. Well, lesson learned. Masculine and feminine. So I've been feeling called to write about these concepts lately. I've also been feeling called to take on more work in this area. I've trained with a teacher of mine, really masterful, John Wineland, and just feeling called to both articulate and speak from that lens, the lens of polarity, the lens of the divine masculine, the divine feminine. Two practitioners I really love and think I will probably be working with next, Justin Patrick Pierce and London Angel Winters. They use the terms the alpha and the omega. And I like that because it kind of separates us from the gendered constructs. You know, like often people hear masculine and feminine, and then they assume, oh, this guy is talking about a man needing to control or to lead a woman, and the woman is meant to submit. It's not really what is being said, nor really the intention of polarity work. That being said, if you're the partner embodying the feminine energy, then the feminine submits to the masculine, allows herself to be led, blah, blah, blah. Anyhow, when we remove it from masculine and feminine and instead speak to alpha and omega, on the one hand, it creates a bit of space because it doesn't get wrapped up in all of the gender conversation that's happening right now. On the other hand, it stops us having to be confronted by that gendered conversation that's showing up. So I'm not totally clear myself on which I like, and I think they're both fine and good. And really, I guess the way I stand in on this is there is no right way. There is just bring the thing that there is to bring, be responsible for its impact, and then be willing to stand and be in a conversation in that impact so as to clean it up and ensure that you as leader are having the impact that you want and being responsible for the impact you are having. Out of that live that I did where I shared a lot of the, I don't want to say fallout because it sounds negative. I shared a lot of the impact, I guess, that me writing about this has had, how it's been received, what people have noticed. And so from that, there's been some great conversations that I've been in. I had a one person reach out and say like, wow, it really opened my eyes. Like it gave me a lot of permission to, even though I'm a man, to embody the feminine at times. And like, I always judged myself for that before. And like, it meant something about me as a man in the world, rather than just like, oh, I'm just embodying a different energy in this moment. And maybe that would serve me best. That was super cool. And a former client of mine and a woman I love dearly who has been on one of these conversations, Kelly Childress, reached out and she and I had this great conversation where she reflected, like, I love what you're writing about, Adam, and I really got a lot from that. And I know you mentioned not caveating or, just sort of speaking from the place, but I really wanted a primer, something that's part of the Adam Quiney canon that you could refer to or refer me to, so I could kind of learn some of this from the ground up. And so I love that feedback. It's just not, I'm trying to put my best art into the world and I'm imperfect. I don't have this figured out. If I did, you probably wouldn't be watching. You probably wouldn't be that interested. And I definitely wouldn't be that interested because it'd be easier for me to lecture on it. But I'm not really interested in lecturing. I'm interested in progressing in my work and being a work in progress and sharing that. So beautiful feedback. Super appreciate that. It was a really rich conversation. And that is kind of what I feel called towards next. It's like, oh yeah, there's many people that have many thoughts and many teachers that are masterful in this area. And there's something for my voice to contribute too. Part of what I have a gift for doing is taking something that can be quite complex and then speaking it in a way that makes it very accessible and that can break it down so that you can follow through the steps to really integrate that and start to create transformation from that place. On that note, this is a really quick sneak preview. I'm not going to show it to you very long, but like, up, did you see that? Up. That's all you get. That is on the note of breaking things down and speaking them into existence. And you will not see any more of what I just showed you. That is for a special group of people. I think it's time to introduce our special guest. I'm not going to get her to put her camera on just yet, nor her mic. And but I want to tell you about Kayla, who's going to join me shortly. Bay and I met Kayla at a Rich Litvin intensive. I've met many great people at these intensives. Before we started our intensive, this was kind of where we were going, not so much for our own development, but to really plug into community, to plug into more coaches, to plug into the inspiration that exists in this work. And so we met Kayla there, and I was trying to remember if she was I think she might have actually been one of the people that went through the Forge right at the start. We're heading into the 4th iteration of the Forge this year. And Kayla was with us right at the start. So back then there was only 6 people in the group, 6-month program, no retreat. Likely we're going to see her come back again this year. So if you're watching this and you also are registered to be in the Forge, you get to be excited because you'll get to play with Kayla. And one of the things I loved about Kayla is her enthusiasm, her passion, and just how she attacked isn't quite the right word, but like her yesness to taking on actions that moved her forward. Often in coaching, one of the places we can get stuck is we keep going back to the coach for more conversation, hoping like, oh, if I just talk about it enough, then I'll do the thing that I'm kind of unwilling to do. And sometimes that's true, but rarely. And what really moves people forward in their lives is staying in that conversation, but taking the action, even in the face of our fear. And if you start taking the action and be willing to do it crappily, to do it shittily or poorly, then magic can happen because now you're in action and we can start to coach what's showing up as you be in that action. And that is what alchemizes real transformation. So Kayla, get your camera on, get your audio on, get yourself here. There you are. Hello.
Hello. Oh, that was such a lovely introduction. Thank you, Adam.
Did I do good?
You did. I loved it.
Nice. How is it being in the green? I ask everyone this because it's fun. How is it being in the green room while I'm nattering away?
It was a little nerve-wracking, but I was just getting more and more pumped and excited to come on. So Yeah. And I
Cool.
think I also owe you a happy birthday because I think I might have missed your birthday. So I want to say that.
I wasn't going to say anything. I was just going to hold it against you resentfully throughout this conversation and throw barbs at you, like undermine you as we were coaching. But now that you've done that, we can step over that.
Excellent.
Cool. Well, how's it going this week? How have you been in the midst of all of the COVID mania?
I've been okay. I've been really great. I have a coach, so I feel like that has really helped me just be able to generate a breakthrough during these times and adaptability and possibility. And that's been really helpful. And I'm noticing too that it's kind of being reflected back to me in the people that are coming to me. Like they're just really ready to generate breakthroughs and they're really ready to like make the most of this time. So yeah, it's been really exciting.
It is an incredible thing how I'm amazed, like in my own life, what COVID has driven up, and having stuff driven up, even if the way it's driven up is a tornado comes and rips the roof off your house, and then you have to confront the fact that you don't ever want to ask people for support. Like that's a way of having our stuff driven up. So whatever it is that drives up our stuff, it provides this amazing opportunity. The counselor Bay and I work with often says, like, to let it go, you have to let it come up. It has to come up to the surface so that then we can set it down. So COVID's provided like this amazing opportunity. And for those of us fortunate enough and committed, because it's not just luck, it's commitment too, to have a coach, to work with a coach. It really, I find it provides so much opportunity to do our work. Like, oh shit, there I am showing up there. Oh, here I am judging people for how they're showing up online. Oh, wow, there's all these opportunities. Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, so what are we gonna dive in on today? What's our topic at hand?
Yeah, so I would really love to take a look at this this story that I have that I've noticed come up time and time again. You know, it seems like every time I kind of go to the next level, it kind of comes back around in a different way. And
Yes.
So I'm kind of coming up against that right now. And it's this story that like I can have some of what I want, but not all of what I want. Like it's this story of I can have this or I can have that. To put some like real examples in there, like I can go travel the world and be a nomad, or I can invest at a really high level in myself, but I can't do both. And so I really kind of want to shift that and like see what's possible, or see how it's possible to have both.
Got it. Just going to say hi to some people here. Hey, Simon. Hey, Sherifat. Hey, Heather. Hey, Sheila. Sheila, you're someone you became very close with in the Forge, right? You guys created some bestie relationship there.
Oh yeah, we still talk every week.
Oh, I love that's amazing. That's so cool. Okay, so there's kind of like it's almost the way you describe it. It sounds like two things are on the scales, and you can have one and not the other, or the other and not the one, or maybe do you ever find like some kind of balance, but it's not quite what you're really after, or does that remain elusive?
Yeah, I've found some balance. Like I definitely traveled last year when I was working with Bay, which was really cool. But I mean, now I'm thinking about literally like leaving my home and living out in the world. And so that's a much bigger expense than like a 2-week trip somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it. So investing in yourself at a high level versus travel, are there other things that seem to be kind of at odds with each other in your life? Other ways that this kind of plays out?
Yep. Okay. Totally. So through my work with Bay, you know, we really realized that I kind of have freedom and love pitted against each other. So I can either be like really working hard in my business and making a lot of progress there and a lot of headway. And then it's like I forget about my love life, and vice versa. When I find someone that I really connect with, it's like I just am all in with that person, and I kind of forget like, oh, hey, I have to do those activities that will move my business forward.
Got it. So when you find it's sort of like, here's the stuff I'm committed to doing, I'm doing it. The rest of it, very all or nothing, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Got it. So is that up for you currently, or is that a thing that you're feeling the impact of right now?
You know, I actually feel proud of myself. I have been tending to both of those really well. I think I could be putting more effort into love, but it's a weird time. And for me, like I know that I'm going to find love out in the world. And so I guess it's kind of like I'm setting myself up right now to be able to go on that adventure to find that person.
Okay.
Although I am doing some work in that area right now as well. So yeah, they feel pretty balanced.
So have we resolved it? Is it handled?
It feels handled maybe with that aspect of it, like freedom and love pitted against each other, but there's still this other piece around, like, I just feel like I can't have everything that I want. And I think like the denominator here is money.
Mm.
You know, there's a fear that like, would I be able to keep my business going if I'm traveling out in the world? And there is a gap too, like, you know, can I still invest in a high level and take care of myself out in the world? Yeah.
So it sounds like there's a way it is for money.
Mm-hmm.
What's the, well, tell me more about that actually.
So I will say I did a little bit of work with my coach now around this. And, you know, we did look at the gap of it being money. So I feel like what's happened over my journey, and you can attest to this, right? When I first met you and Bay, like it was so scary to make that leap to invest at the level that you guys have us to commit to playing at.
Right.
And for me back then, it was kind of like, well, I don't understand how I can invest in that. Like, I don't understand how I could possibly pay my bills and invest that much money.
Right.
And so that was kind of what the game I'm in right now looked like then. And so it's kind of like the
just
same
at like a higher level.
Yeah, it's like come back around again. It's like, well, now that's easy. Like it doesn't phase me to invest in myself and be able to pay my bills. Like that's just my normal how things go. Like I've gotten used to that. I've gotten kind of comfortable in this new game. And now it's like, okay, well, I got to go do the game again, but in this bigger way. And
right.
Yeah.
So help me get a sense of like, let's assume you're playing the new game in the best way, or, you know, whatever, we address that. Like, what is it that you want life to look like that this currently stands in the way of?
Yeah. So I really want to be completely sovereign and independent. I want to be able to like travel whenever I want to. And I want that to kind of be my home. I want my home to be out in the world. And so, you know, if I want to go to Costa Rica for a month, like I get to go to Costa Rica, and then say I decide I want to go over to Bali. I get to go over to Bali for 2 months, and then I get to go to Spain or wherever I want to be. And I can do that. I can have that experience while I can be investing in myself, while I can have a full practice of clients, of amazing clients, while I can be having the time of my life adventuring, while I can be saving money for the other things that I want. Like I'd love to have a new car someday. I'd love to be able to have like a long-term investment savings. Yeah, like there's just all of it. Like I want all of it.
So let me make sure I'm hearing first. There's like, you're sovereign and independent. You can travel whenever you want. Simultaneously, you're investing in yourself. I'm guessing that you haven't said it this way, but I'm guessing that means like you have a coach, you pay for programs, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then you also invest in long-term savings, that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. So, well, just to be clear, I'm still like in this part of the conversation, I'm kind of like, oh, what are we actually aiming towards? I'm not super clear on it yet. That's not a critique of you, just sort of like, oh, okay, God, I'm still not quite clear what we're aiming towards. So is it kind of Because what I'm wondering a little bit, is this a problem of like just not making enough money, or is it not? What is the thing that you perceive to be in the way of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely money, but it's not the doing. Like I'm doing everything,
Uh-huh.
and I am creating clients. Like I'm amazed at myself for what I've been able to create, even in just the past 2 months. Um, but yeah, there's just this. There's like another piece in the way. There's money, and then there's like, is this too good to be true? Like, can I keep this up? Like, can this be consistent? Is this really like my life now? you know,
Right.
um, I've only been a full-time entrepreneur since last October. So, but I'm really proud of myself for sustaining that. But there's this fear, like, can I sustain this? Like, can I keep this up, and can I keep growing?
Well, okay, so I get that. Like, I can relate to that fear, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is the fear doing anything aside from leaving you feeling afraid? Because what I mean by that is we all have fears. They're only really problematic when they dictate our actions. So it's fine for me to be afraid that I might get mugged, but as long as I'm willing to go out to the store, be with that fear, buy my groceries, whatever, it's not such a big deal. But if I'm staying inside, putting more and more locks on my door, hiring people to be this is a weird example, but you get the idea. Now the fear is becoming problematic because it's dictating how I can live my life. So I get the fear, like, oh my God, it's a little too good. Am I in trouble? But is it actually doing anything? Or is it just like, oh shit, I feel afraid?
Yeah, and it's something, yeah, like when, as you were speaking, like what came up for me was responsibility, like the word responsibility. It's like I, I'm terrified of taking on more responsibility because, like, how am I going to meet that responsibility? Like, how can I take on these responsibilities without necessarily knowing if I'm going to have the money to like sustain those responsibilities?
Hmm.
And that's keeping me small. It's keeping me in this little life.
Okay, so there's kind of like a couple conversations I'm present to. One is like, oh, there's certain things that you want to, hold on, let me just get my words together. It's like one conversation would be like, how do I make all the money so I can do all the things, right? Like I want to plunk down $20,000 every year for long-term investment. I want to make $50,000 to hire the coach that I want to work with. I want to make another $10,000 to do the program I want to do. I want to have a budget for this. And then it's just like, great, what are the things to do to generate that income?
Mm-hmm.
There's also the conversation of like, I want to be doing all of that regardless of the amount of money I'm making. And I notice that I tend to go all or nothing. So it's like I put all my money into my investment until I'm tired of that. And then I put all my money over here into traveling. And rather than like, hey, I'm making $10. So one goes to long-term investment, five goes to the coach, two go to travel, whatever. Is that conversation? What's showing up for you as I'm laying this out?
Yeah, so I had the first conversation with my coach already, so I feel like maybe the second conversation would be better to kind of like let go of that all or nothing. But even as you say that, like I feel my body kind of constricting.
Hmm. What's it constricting around? Like, what is it trying to hold on to?
It's kind of like well, it makes me sad. Like it makes me angry, and it makes me sad. Um to think about like splitting up my income in that way,
Hmm. How come?
because then I wouldn't have anything that I want.
Well, tell me more about that. That's super interesting. I was going to say intriguing, and then that's why my voice went weird there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't be able to, like, if I had a certain amount going to every pool, I would just be like saving money essentially right now for the things that I want in the future. And I wouldn't be able to have a coach right now. I wouldn't be able to travel right now.
Hmm.
Um, like it's just not enough.
Tell me more.
Yeah. Um, yeah, like I would have to live this small life for like a year or two, and then maybe I would be able to do the things that I want to do. And I don't want to do that.
So it sounds kind of like there's this feeling. It's like, again, I'm hearing kind of the all or nothing of it. Like, so you want everything, and you want everything at the maximum level. Yes. So, it's like it, well, a coach once said to me, one of the first coaches that I had was at least ontological, deep in her work. It drove me nuts that she said this. She said, you can have anything you want, just not all at once, Adam. I was like, but I want it all at once. What about the possibility of coaching? Blah, 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 blah. And it sounds a little bit, that's where you're at. Like, yeah, I could put $1 towards long-term savings every month, but that's not, it should be, or I want it to be whatever the number, you probably have some number that is the right number, I'm guessing, or the number you want. And that's what it should be. Yeah. And if it's not that number, it's not enough. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Got it. And then, so I imagine if, doing everything at a bit of a reduced scale, so it's like a balanced approach, that's kind of like, but then I'm not getting to do anything fully. And so then the game you play is like, do this fully until you get tired of doing that fully. And then you like, do this one fully. Okay, now I'm going to do relationship fully. Okay, now I'm going to invest in myself fully. So you like kind of spin from thing to thing to thing.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So how would you like it to, well, what's going on for you there?
It just feels like kind of heartbreaking. Like it feels really sad. Yeah. I don't like that. Like what you said about, like, okay, I can do this thing, but it has to like be watered down. Like it can't be that full expression.
Right.
Yeah.
I just want to speak to something that's shown up in the comments, which is Melissa's saying like, oh, because of your why, get a really powerful why, which is definitely a direction we could take. The reason I'm not going to that is because that would be like, oh, let's solve this for Kayla. Like, let's get her so clear on something that then she will do this. Where we're at in this conversation right now is getting clear on like, what even is happening? So it's kind of like, if someone keeps finding themselves in a hole, then the obvious solution might be like, oh, we'll get them really inspired for why they might want to leave the hole. But first we've got to figure out like, what is it that keeps getting them in a hole? Because if the thing that has them keep finding themselves in a hole is that they are unconsciously going out into the world and looking for holes and falling into them, then motivating them to get out of the hole is just going to speed this cycle up. They're going to be like, yeah, get out of the hole, and then fall right back into it. Yeah, get out of the hole. So before we even go to moving Kayla out of this place, we really want to get this place. We really want to understand like, what's at play that's creating this dynamic for her. A different way we could put this is that we can't leave a place until we've been there.
Yeah.
So of course, Kayla, who I know to be highly motivated to go places, would love, I'm sure, for us to create like a powerful why right now. And what my sense is for us to get a little cozier with where things are. So what is the experience of, it sounds like you're kind of like, wow, I can see the dynamic, right, that you're playing. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Do you ever try this balanced approach? I'm curious. Like this one, you seem pretty good at, or familiar with, or used to. Do you ever try the one where you're like, okay, I'll do everything in a balanced way, and I'll do a little bit of that and a little bit of that? Have you ever tried that?
I think I've made attempts to try that, and then the thing that I want comes up, and I'm like, meh, forget that.
Got it.
I want this thing more than I want the balanced approach.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. How long does that usually last for?
Like trying the balanced approach?
Yeah.
Until something that I really want comes up. It's like a squirrel, right? Like
right.
Squirrel.
Yeah, of course. And I'm wondering,
which isn't very long, Adam, which is not very long because there are a lot of things I want.
Well, and that's what I'm wondering. Like, so I totally get it, right? It's just a matter of time until a squirrel shows up. But I'm actually my hunch is you're going to create a squirrel one way or the other, like that this is all created. So I'm wondering, like, if we just looked historically, roughly how long is it before somehow a squirrel happens upon you?
I can actually give you an example. So this month I decided, because my student loans, I have one student loan that's almost paid off, and they
Nice.
had suspended all interest, and you don't have to actually pay it right now. So I was like, oh man, I only have like X amount left. I'm just going to like shell my money towards that and get that paid off.
Yeah.
Well, all good plans, right? And then this month, like my car had to get fixed. So I decided, oh, okay, I'm going to put the money towards that. And I'm like, all right, the money I divvied out for that next month, well, I want to do the forge. So I'm going to do that instead.
Right.
So yeah, it's not very long. It's like a plan. And then, yeah.
Weeks, months, days, hours?
Probably like days/weeks.
Okay, got it. Got it. So 1 to 2 weeks, not very. So you're like, trying to balance this out. And then, oh crap, there comes the squirrel.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So what is the experience of this? It sounds like it's a bit of a fluctuating game where you're like, try and like be measured, whatever you're speaking to yourself is around this. Get sick of that. Go for gold, go for gold, go for gold. Like, tell me about just the experience of being inside this pattern that we're looking at.
Yeah. So I think it starts with like, I get really excited about like this plan that I'm creating. Like, okay, I'm gonna, I have my coach, and then I'm gonna like pay off the student loan, and I get excited, like looking at the numbers and coming up with the number that needs to occur. And then, I'm all
we're in the
set up.
balanced approach right now. Is that,
yeah.
Okay, got it. You're like, I have a plan. I'm excited.
Yeah. Like I get excited, like creating the plan. And then the thing comes up that I want. And then I just like, I don't take action right away. Like I sit with it and I'm like, okay, I'm noticing that I want this thing. I want this thing. I want this thing. And I just kind of like let the feelings sit in my body. And then I get really excited. I'm like, if the feelings continue, then I'm like, yes, like this is the thing. Like I want to do this instead. Forget that other thing.
Yes.
Like this is where my heart is calling me. And this is the guidance I'm receiving. And then I act on it. And then that other thing gets pushed to the side.
Yeah. The other thing being the plan at this point.
Yeah, the plan. Oftentimes it's like the lesser prioritized thing. Like, no one likes paying off debt. Like it feels good, but it's not necessarily the thing that you want to do. And I did this with my credit cards for a long time. Like I did pay all those off, which is good. But
nice. Congrats.
Thank you. And I did that for a long time with those too. I would like be like, oh, that plan that I have to pay all that off. Nope, I'm going to invest with this coach. So yeah, it's this experience of just like being really excited to do that thing, to like get that priority handled, and then something else more exciting comes up, and then I get really excited for that, and then that other thing kind of just gets put on the shelf longer.
Got it. Okay, so let me make sure I've got this. Step one, and I'm going to say it sounds like this is a cycle, so we could begin distinguishing this anywhere in the cycle, but where we're starting is like step one, Kayla's got a plan. It's time for a plan. One with a plan. Yeah. Step two, excited by plan. It's like novel, new. All right, I got a plan. Step three, kind of like, okay, I'm on the plan. It's measured. And then step four, new hotness shows up. Now there's a sexy new thing that is like not kind of immediately going to become available, et cetera, et cetera. And then go for new hotness. Is that about right?
That is so right. Yes.
Okay, great. And then what happens next? Like, how does it go from here?
Then how does it go from there? So again, I think the lower priority thing kind of falls off, and I just keep doing the bare minimum.
Got it.
Typically, like, so I guess like the squirrels that often get in the way are travel and investing in myself.
Which is really hiring, like coaching or programs?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Yeah. So I do one or the other. I either go and travel or I invest. And I mean, now I'm just realizing like I always make more money when I do those things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, actually, yeah, I think I end up having to kind of sacrifice for a little while, but then I make more. I bring an investment, like a return. I
Yeah.
bring a return on investment.
Okay.
And then we're kind of back at square one again. Because now I'm like, oh, yay, like I have all this new income coming in. I'm going to make a plan with what I'm going to do with that. And then we start again.
Okay. So I'm a bit curious because as you've described it, it sounds like the only casualty in all of this is that the plan falls by the wayside, but you like invest, make more income, and things gradually move forward. And it's just like, if not for making a plan and then not fully sticking to it, this sounds great. And I'm imagining it's not quite that great based on your being about it.
Yeah.
So what are we missing?
Hmm.
Or what's showing up for you right now?
Yeah, I kind of feel like I'm like looking for the answer. The answer is not coming up super fast. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it takes a moment.
Yeah.
I think what's missing is part of me wants to say speed. Like speed is missing.
Mm-hmm.
And speed towards having everything. You know, because this is like the game of like Kayla gets to have some things that she wants, but not everything.
What don't you get inside of this thing that we've drawn out so far?
Yeah, I don't get. I think it changes depending on what squirrel is currently in front of me. So when
But
I'm
let
in
me
that.
pause you.
Oh, okay.
So let's imagine that I totally get what you're talking about, right? Like down on the ground, what squirrel shows up is the thing that takes you away from the particular in the moment. Like there's particulars to this. But if we zoomed out so that we couldn't quite see the particulars, we're just looking at like in a broad sense, the way it goes for Kayla is create a plan, excited by plans, see a sexy new thing, do bare minimum towards the thing that's not the sexy new thing, go after the sexy new thing, sacrifice, get return, new income, repeat. Mm-hmm. What in all of that consistently do you not get?
I don't get sovereignty.
Tell me more about that.
I don't get to live my life like fully in the way that I want to live it. Like choices get limited. Like instead of being able to choose everything, I have to choose this or that. Yeah, sovereignty and like a level of like independence, you know.
What does sovereignty mean to you?
Sovereignty to me means just being able to live your life in the way that you want to live it, like freely. Like there's just no kind of constraints around you. Like if you want to do this thing, then you get to go and do it. You get to choose it.
Well, and how is that? Because that kind of sounds like what you've just described, which is you're like, I'm going to make a plan because I want to make a plan. And then there's a new thing. You're like, I want that new thing. And then you go after the new thing. So
maybe it's freedom. Like maybe that's the better word, because you're right. I am making these choices and I'm making these choices from a place of sovereignty. Like I'm fully choosing to invest when I invest and knowing that, hey, it might be uncomfortable. Like I might have to give up something. So that is sovereignty to me. So I guess it's freedom.
Okay. I want to be clear too that I'm not trying to move you off of the word sovereignty. I'm more having us look a little deeper into what that is for you.
Mm-hmm.
So we could go with sovereignty, we could go with freedom. Let's go with freedom because that's what you just brought. So like from how would freedom look inside of the way this goes as opposed to the way it currently goes?
Wait, can you say that again?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
So like there's a way things currently go for you in this pattern, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying, oh, part of what I don't get is freedom.
Yeah.
In this pattern, or sovereignty, if we go back to that one. And so my question is like, how would this play out if you had freedom? If you were embodying or had the thing that you're saying you don't get in this pattern, then how would things go differently?
Yeah. Okay. So I like this part, right? This would be like literally living my vision. This would be, it would be like, again, either traveling and living out in the world, or choosing somewhere to live and actually having my own place and having that. Maybe both. Actually, it would be both. Adam, what do you like? Again, both. It would be both. It would have my own place, my own home, and then traveling when I want to. It would be investing in everything that I want. So I'd want to have a private coach at all times. And then when a program or like an event called to me, I'd want to be able to do that. It would look like having a new car, like being able to have that money for a new car. And then just like taking care of myself, like completely and fully, like doing all of the things that nourish me. So feeding myself, going to the gym, being able to, go for a massage when I want to, doing all the healing modalities that kind of speak to me or call to me, and then having savings and having like long-term investment savings as well. That would be freedom.
So I notice, thanks, you're doing great. I noticed that the way you described freedom was entirely a product of your circumstances.
Yes.
Right. It was, and I don't, that's not a criticism, right? Just like It was, you invest in this, you have a new car, you get to travel, you get to do this, you get to do that, you get to do this, like all of the stuff you have.
Yeah.
Tell me about who you're being from freedom. So like, let's remove the circumstances entirely out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it sounds a little bit like this pattern that we've just drawn out is actually trying to create all of the circumstances, but I'm not really hearing about who Kayla gets to be in this future she just created, nor currently.
Yeah, no, I love that. And thank you for bringing me back to that, because that's something that I tend to do is I'm like focused outside of me as opposed to inside.
Yeah.
So like freedom internally, it would feel like I would feel completely held and supported. Like there would just be there'd be no resistance, like nothing, no funky energy in my body. And I actually, as I'm speaking this, like I tend to feel this on a day-to-day basis already, like within my current circumstance. But yeah, it's just like this complete freedom, like I'm completely supported. I think like presence wise, I think I would feel like more integrity, because, as a coach, like it's my job to help people live into their possibility. And I mean, I'm a commitment to always living into my possibility. I'm not perfect, but I feel like if I was at this level, like it would just be even more in integrity. I would be like just this kind of like people would be drawn to me because of the way that I'm living my life. There'd be a lot, yeah. Yeah.
Let me read you the answers you gave, and I just want you to tell me what you notice about them, okay?
Okay.
So I asked you, who would you be being from freedom, right? You said, I would feel supported. I would feel more integrity in my presence and who I am, and people are drawn to me. based on how I'm living my life? What do you notice about those answers?
Supported, integrity, magnetizing.
Want me to read them again for you?
No, I don't know. I mean, I guess they kind of went a little bit from internal to external, perhaps.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And feelings, right? So like if I was generating the being of freedom, I would feel supported. I would feel in integrity, which is, we've moved from like the external circumstances now to more of like the internal ones.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? Because feelings are not something, people will argue with me on this, and that's fine. They can go watch a different live. But my experience of our feelings is they're fickle. They're like the weather. And, you know, I take on a lot of work. I get to live this amazing life. And some days I wake up and I'm like, man, life is lame. I'm making fun of myself, but that's true. I'm just like, blah, everything sucks. You could look at the circumstances. It's ludicrous. You could look at who I get to be in my life. It's insane. It's amazing. People would love to have this life. Some, not all. That's fine. The reason I'm mentioning this is because my feelings are not, they're fickle.
Yeah.
They're not the measure of how my life is. And I noticed that if I chose from my feelings, I would create a lot less in my life. Because on those days, I'm like, man, I would just cancel this conversation with you, right? I would just eat ice cream out of the fridge, or well, the freezer. I would drink beer at 9 a.m. All of the stuff that like from how I feel would dictate my actions. Does it make sense so far? So I'm really curious, like, I really like the word sovereignty on you. There's something about that really feels like truth there. And I'm curious about the being of sovereignty. Like if you were to truly embody sovereignty, what does that look like in terms of how you be?
So, what's coming to mind is some like actions that kind of represent the being. So maybe you can help me pull out the being from the actions.
Sure. Yeah, totally.
So I think it would be like, I would be showing up for my business, like in the ways that I know I need it to grow.
And what does showing up for your business mean?
So it means like taking the actions. Like it means connecting with people. It means inviting people to conversations. It means proposing to people. It means caring for my clients and supporting them in the best way that I can. It means creating.
And do you currently do that?
Yes.
Okay. So what is different about true sovereignty? Like how is a sovereign? Think of a king or a queen, because that's what sovereign means to me. Is that kind of what it means to you?
Yeah. It would be more selective. What came up? It would be way more selective. I think I've been kind of going down that road for a little while, just really only reaching out and connecting with people that call to me, like that I'm inspired by, that I vibe with, as opposed to just anyone who comes through the door. So it would be that on like a totally different level. And I think there would be less of it too. There would be less of it. Like, again, like the connections, all of the things within those things that I just said would be more intentional and more like just more impactful. Yeah.
Well, so let's try a different tack. So imagine a queen and she has a kingdom.
Yeah.
There's much that she wants to do with the kingdom. There's only so much that she can do with the kingdom. She has this much wealth, but no more. She can tax her citizens, but only to a certain extent. So that's kind of like you, right? You have this kingdom, which represents your life and travel and investing in yourself and all of these sort of things, right? And I'm curious, what if we took how you're currently being about your life and transplanted it onto that queen? What does she look like as she manages her kingdom on a daily basis? So the pattern we've just distinguished for you, tell me that story as that queen. What does it look like?
Yeah. So it means connecting with people, again, like same actions, but I think like going into those actions, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And it's like, I feel like oftentimes I'm casting a really wide net. But then like the people that end up being people that maybe I want to serve or support, it's like I could cast this huge net and there's like one person that I'm like, whoa, like I am in awe of you. And it took so much to get there to that one person.
Well, let me clarify. Let me take a stab because
Okay.
I didn't ask the question very clear. That's totally my bad.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell you the story of this queen in her kingdom using your pattern as I'm going to overlay a queen, the metaphor of a queen running a kingdom over top of your pattern that we've just distinguished, right?
Yeah.
So we have this queen. She loves her kingdom. She wants to do right by it. She does many things that she wishes for this kingdom. She decides she has a plan for her kingdom. We're going to make sure that garbage gets taken out. We're going to make sure that the roads are safe. We're going to invest in our military. We're going to do all of this stuff and we're going to make it really, it's important. We want the kingdom to have all of these things. With me so far?
Mm-hmm.
She does that for a week. She shares with her subjects, this is what's going to happen. The next week, she goes, I changed my mind. I'm going to invest in this prince that has come into my kingdom. He's very handsome. And she does that for a little bit of time. And then she goes, I changed my mind. I'm going to go travel far and learn about this Silk Road that I've heard so much about. And then I'm going to bring that back to the kingdom. Don't worry.
Yeah.
And then, so to me, that doesn't occur particularly sovereign. It occurs a little fickle, more princess than queen.
Yeah, but that's, I don't know, that's like the adventurer in me.
Well, I'm not criticizing it, Kayla.
Okay.
I want to check and so part of the gift here might be in just realizing I don't want to be sovereign. I don't want to do that. And I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just, all I'm doing is reflecting. Like one of the things I hear you say is a desire for sovereignty.
Yeah.
And then I'm reflecting that, at least in terms of the way of being that you're currently coming from, occurs less like the archetype, the queen sovereign archetype, and more like the debutante, the princess, like swayed moment by moment, but with what the world puts in front of her.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a bad thing even. I say that's totally fine. I just imagine there's some consequences to that approach.
Yeah.
Where has that left you?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sweating like
Sweet. That means something, I guess.
Yeah, something. No, yeah, I think definitely I get it. I see it. Yeah, it's like I'm chasing after this sovereignty or like trying to generate a breakthrough here, but is that really what I want? Because I actually like adventure more than I want to be that queen that you described, the one that kind of keeps an even keel like all the time for her subjects.
And it doesn't even have to be even keel, right?
Yeah.
Like there's many, many, many ways that this can look. Like it could look like maybe you set aside 75% of your funds towards adventure and then you deal with the rest 25%. The thing I notice in this, these are the things that I'm present to just in what we're describing. I'm not trying to give you a solution to doing this, just to be clear.
Yeah.
But it seems like some of the things you miss out on are being able to trust your word, because you give your word through this plan you create and then you throw it out 2 weeks later. So I would imagine there's not a lot of being able to rely on yourself or really to trust yourself in this, which I could imagine might contribute to that fear you have. Where you're like, it's good, but will it stay good? I don't have any certainty of that, because there isn't any certainty in this. There's just whatever is next, right? Would that be fair?
Yeah. And it points to that whole thing where it's like when out, like it's the inner and the outer. I don't trust myself in it, like to my word, if it's something that I'm holding me to for myself. But if I have someone else to to pay. Like if I invested in myself and I have a bill to pay, I will like just throw away my word to keep my word to the other person.
Right. Which is kind of like another way of saying your word doesn't carry much weight for you.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't carry much weight for you, predictably, it won't carry much weight for other people. Maybe to some extent, but like much more powerful is their word. And then you can rely on their word or whatever. Like, oh, I can source myself that way. So that's the first consequence I noticed maybe in this pattern is like a bit of a disempowered relationship to your own word. What you say you will do is a little waffly for you, it sounds like. That's okay. That doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's just a consequence, like every choice, every action, every way of being has some consequences to it.
Yeah.
Is it making sense so far?
Yep.
I could also imagine part of the consequence of this pattern is there's not a lot of consistency for it. So for, hold on, I want to read you something. Let's go to my own coaching notes. The most embarrassing stuff. I don't want to see any one of that. Money project. That's what I'm looking for. Where are you? Search in Adam Quiney. Here we go. This is fun. Oh, nice. I found it really quick. Okay. So there's that lack of consistency is super familiar for me. And the way it often showed up in my life was around money. The way I was raised with money was you have to budget it and be very tight with it. My dad, you'll get this. My dad, to this day, still wears the shitty Chuck Taylor Converse All-Star sweatshirt that he stole out of the Lost and Found at the university he worked at 40 years ago. That's the sweatshirt he wears. And I'm like, buy yourself a new sweatshirt. I got to buy him a new sweatshirt. That's what I'm going to do. So anyhow, that's the relationship I was raised into with money, was like be very tight, very responsible. There's consequences to that. My parents are not very good at treating themselves. It's hard for them to like pay a lot of money, hard to buy things that aren't on sale, hard to not get a deal, et cetera, et cetera. Decisions requiring money require years. These days it's years. It took my mom like 10 years and after she'd retired before she could renovate her office. You're getting the idea, right? That's one way of being with money. So I kind of swung out to the other swung out to the other side, which is screw all that, be free with it. When I'm flush, I spend, and when I'm not, I don't. And that'll be my way of money, which is kind of like the opposite of this one. Can you see that?
Yep.
Both of these are not the most empowered relationship with money. And so what tended to happen for me is I'd swing back and forth between these two poles. So I'd like free and easy and fuck it, I don't want to budget. And then I'd get like, oh my God, where's all the money? I'd get scared. And then I'd swing all the way back over to this side and be like, budget. And it'd be like very restrictive and restrained and like unpleasant for Bay, definitely. And I would be empowered by it for a while until I got back to fuck it. And I'd go back and forth.
Yeah.
So before I say anything more, does this sound at all familiar or relatable
like
for
me.
you?
Yeah, totally.
Great. And I would be in like, but I don't want to have to be in that restrained mode. But I also hate the fact that like I have no idea where money is at. I'm making good money, I think. But every time a bill comes in, I'm a little worried because I don't know where the money is at. So I just want to read you the vision I created for my project around money when I was taking this on in my own life. And then we'll bring this back to you and away from my dad's crappy sweatshirt. So love you, Dad. My experience, this is my vision. My experience of money has completely shifted. I don't stress about it and I don't ignore it. I'm with it every day. The way I feel with regards to money, the way I'm being really with regards to money is I'm being in integrity. I'm on top of money in a way that feels clean. I'm prepared and ready. I'm not caught off guard when a bill comes or stressing because my accountant lets me know how much we need to pay in taxes. I'm wise. 90% or more of the time, I feel good about how we are with our money instead of feeling clueless with spikes of feeling good. I'm consistent While money ebbs and flows and our bank accounts grow and shrink, the way I relate to it is consistent. My actions with it are consistent. I show up in a way with money that allows us to be consistent. And finally, possibility. Here's the catch. While I'm being consistent, wise, responsible, and on top of our finances, I'm working with it in a way that allows for possibility and spontaneity. What do you hear in any of what I shared?
Wise definitely stood out. And kind of just like, like situations or circumstances could change, but there's still this kind of solidness around it. Yeah.
Now, are you saying like you heard that from me, or is that something you heard for yourself, or something altogether different?
Yeah, I heard.
Oh, got it.
Both, a little bit of both. Like that's kind of my reflection back. Like that's what sticks with me. Is there's just a feeling of like circumstances can change, but you can be solid with it. And the wise, definitely wise.
Yeah. So I wish I had an answer for you, which I don't.
No, but you're okay. So yeah, I see it now, because if I keep doing the we'll just call it the adventure.
Yeah, I love that. That's great.
If I keep like being the adventure, then it doesn't matter how much money I continue to make. It's always going to be this way. Like that's just going to be my relationship to it. So I have to start somewhere. Like I have to start now, and then I can still make more money. But if I'm relating to it in that way, like the solid, well, things are changing, then yeah. And maybe there's like an opportunity for a little bit of both, like you were saying. It never occurred to me like, wait, actually, maybe I could still like invest in myself, but then like whatever I have and pay my bills, but then whatever I have left over, I actually do that divvy thing. Like I just immediately was thinking like, oh, I got to take all the money I make in a month and I got to divvy it out. But maybe it doesn't have to be that way. That was the all or nothing. It either has to be all that way or nothing. And that's what was making me sad.
Yeah. And I'm always a little cautious about us getting into solutions, right? Because it's like, oh, got it. Now we can solve it this way. Like I'll put 75 or whatever. The thing, I love what you saw for yourself there.
Yeah.
And the thing I'm really present to is, well, one of what showed up was, the adventure. Money is a little bit that way for you right now too.
Yeah.
It's like, is there enough? I don't know. Let's find out. Let's go after this. Let's see what happens. You're like on a boat on an ocean and the wave goes up and you get to see over it and then you drop down. You're like, I wonder what's oh fuck, it's a sea monster. And then back down. Oh my God, a mermaid. And like, who knows, right? What's showing up. Mm-hmm. And the place I would really steer you back towards is just like, who do you want to be in all of this that will best give you the experience of life that you want and enable all of these sort of things?
Yeah, the wise adventurer.
Like
I don't want to kill that adventurer part of me. Like I love that part of me. I think that's what makes me unique. I think that's like the heart and soul of me. But that part of me can also use a little bit of wisdom. Can also use a little bit of checking and not being in the all or nothing all the time. Okay.
Yeah. If we were to frame this in like masculine and feminine, divine, or like the energetics, it's kind of like you have a lot of feminine energy and then you swing all the way to like all of the masculine, right? It's like the plan is the thing. And then you get swept away by the feminine, which is very exciting. Like the feminine energy is exciting. It's the energy of love and life and adventure and who knows and all of that stuff. And in my own experience, what most enables us is when we can create a bit of structure to support us. And that, at least for me, tends to give us a lot more freedom than that teenage kind of freedom, which is like, I don't want any restrictions on myself whatsoever. We get to say yes to whatever shows up in the moment, but we never get to say yes truly to the stuff longer term. We can't, because we have, unless it happens to line up with whatever's been showing up in the moment.
Yeah, which is kind of how it goes for me usually.
Is there anything that you really like through that plan, not like the plan itself, but just the desire to like be more balanced or to be more consistent or to be wiser? What are some of the things that like that would really open up in your life that you would love to have, be they experiences or whatever?
Yeah. I think that like I would still be able to kind of choose an adventure to have like in the forefront, but then like in the back, like there would be kind of this pot, this ever growing pot for that, like for having it all. Right. So it's like I could still experience adventure. Yeah, I can still experience adventure now and whatever I choose, but then there's like this pot behind me that's kind of like collecting. And then eventually when that gets bigger, then I can have all those things. But I'm not like keeping adventure out either. Like I'm getting to I'm getting to invest in what I want to invest in. But there's this growing pot that's like when it comes time to travel, there I have that pot to dig into. Or when it's time to like pay off that loan, hey, I got this pot to dig into and I can just pay it off. But I'm also like investing and having that forefront adventure. Yeah.
I love that. So Melissa, I think it was, that was talking earlier about why. Notice now we're getting into the conversation about the why, the what for Kayla, because she's clear on where she is. We can start to see this stuff. So what I heard you say, Kayla, was there'd be this pot. You could kind of invest in things or like build up or whatever. What kind of experience in your life would that provide you that you don't currently get? That kind of currently feels kept out?
Yeah. Like, so what's an experience that's being kept out? Well, like, let's just say, for example, like, I'm investing in myself right now. That's the adventure at hand. And let's say like my friends were like, hey, or like someone was like, hey, I want to go on this adventure. Like I would have this pot behind me that would be like, oh, maybe I want to dig into this pot to like go do this thing that I've been growing on the side. So it would give me more of that freedom. Like it would give me more of that ability to choose, as opposed to like, oh, I can't because I'm investing in myself right now and I don't have anything left over outside of that.
So it actually provides some access to more spontaneity, it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay, cool. What else? Like, just imagine, you're bringing this way of being that you've said you want to the way, like to the way you show up around your money, around the choices you make. And you've been doing this for like 5 years. What is now present in your life that is not currently? What else becomes available for you?
This answers your question somewhat, but it came to me while you're asking the question. What you said earlier, like the integrity with your word, like trusting of your word. Yeah, I think I could just like trust myself more.
And what would I notice is different in your life as a result of you being able to trust yourself more?
There'd just be like a steadiness, like a stableness, like a solidness, kind of like what we were talking about before with the money. It'd just be like a solidness.
And what are some ways? You're doing great. I just want to keep building this out a little bit. So what are some ways that we might expect to see that tangibly manifested? You more reliable on your word, really being able to know and trust the power of your word, creating what you say you want to create by virtue of speaking it into the world, a steadiness, a solidness. What could we expect to see in Kayla's life in 5 years that wouldn't be predictable from where she currently is as a result of those things?
Oh yeah, I mean, I could have my own home and I could travel whenever I wanted to.
Oh, nice.
I also think that I would be able to, like, I would just be charging much higher fees. Like I would feel totally in integrity to do that. And I'd be creating clients at that level.
Got it. So higher fees, creating clients at that level and have a, not just like adventure, but also like a home base or a home of your own.
Yeah, on top of the travel. And I
Uh-huh.
would be, again, I would be able to have everything. Be able to have everything.
Right. Got it. Anything else you,
While
yeah,
still, while on the way to that 5 year thing, while still being able to have an adventure in the moment.
nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Anything else that you see?
Mm, not right now, but I will later, I'm sure, as I simmer.
What's present for you in this moment?
Just like an expansion, like, yay, excitement.
There's a part of me that's like, I'm curious if there's something underneath that for you. And I might be making it up, but it feels a little bit like there's happiness over top of something.
Oh, Adam, you know what I just thought of? Like, this is kind of me at the beginning of the cycle again, right? Like, oh, yay, let's make a plan.
Right.
Let's get
And
excited for this plan.
so what else is under that excitement? Like what shows up with that, given you just shared that?
um, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm so excited by it that there's not really anything, but what I could see is like, this could be the potential to turn it into a plan and then get excited about it. And then like, oh, am I gonna like go against my word again? Like, am I not gonna be able to do this?
So
Is there something that you feel underneath it that maybe,
I don't
no?
know. Yeah,
Okay.
I was present to like the, well, I already reflected it, right? Like it felt like there was some joy and some excitement. And I was left kind of wondering like, what else is underneath that? As though there was something underneath that layer of excitement and joy. And that might just have been me, or like there might not, very well might be nothing there.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're not present to anything.
No,
Okay, great.
no, I feel excited.
So what do you see there might be to practice with all of this?
Um, so the practice would be like practicing being wise with my money. So, um, kind of like deciding like what's the adventure like currently in front of me, like where am I going to put the bulk of it? Is it going to be in investing? Is it going to be in traveling? And then whatever is left over after that, actually I really like this idea of kind of divvying that up. And I have already like a plan that I've created, that I was like, oh, I can't do this until I'm making this much money. But I
Right.
know I can do that now. Maybe it just won't be the amounts that I had in mind. But yeah, I think I don't know, there's something like really freeing about that to me. Like that just feels really freeing
That being,
to have like this growing pot, even if it's not that much right now.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
I get that.
So yeah. So that's a practice, is just to be wise and do that. And then I
What would it
think
look like? Oh, go ahead.
I think another one would just be to kind of like notice that like just keep an eye on like feeling that excitement, but then being wary of like, like when I feel like I want to go against it,
Mm,
and just kind of calling myself out on that.
nice. So basically noticing this pattern
Yeah.
as it's going.
Yeah.
Would it serve you to like write this pattern out and post it somewhere? So it's like, oh, there it is. Where am I on the pattern?
Yeah. I've done that in the past with another one and it's been really helpful.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Would you take that on?
Yes.
Um, the other thing that I might suggest is to, most of the time we're like, I want to do this thing, but I'm not willing to. And then we make ourselves wrong for being unwilling, but we're not willing all the same. And it's just like, I want to stick to my plan, and yet I'm not willing, and I'm wrong for that. And then we get into this, it's like eating your cake and hating yourself while you're eating it. I shouldn't have this cake. And so you may just practice like one, noticing so you can be clear eyed and sober about it. Like, oh, this is the next step in the pattern. I'm going through it. And then like empowering that if that's what you're choosing. I'm choosing this. I know what happens next. I'm going to do the program. I'm going to sacrifice. I'm going to bring return. There'll be new money. And then I'm going to come back to here and I'll probably make a plan again. And I'm guessing somewhere in this cycle, there's some disempowered story. There's some berating yourself, some frustration, or some flavor of that. Mm-hmm. Would that be fair?
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah, like not as much right now.
Right.
But sometimes, yeah. Not right now. Yeah.
Yeah, like not in this moment. Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, it's not like the whole thing you hate yourself, right? You're here in this conversation. If you hated yourself constantly, you'd be in bed.
Yeah, like I haven't been, for example, I haven't berated myself for not putting that money that I set aside to go to my student loan. Like I'm like, meh.
Right on. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the case with all of our cycles, is like there's moments, the reason part of why we're in them is because there's moments of joy and excitement. I imagine that when you actually see the sexy new thing and think about it a whole bunch and eventually say yes to it, and then like a period of time afterwards, that there's a ton of excitement and adventure and joy in that part. Mm-hmm. I'm just imagining at the bottom of the cycle, there's also a part that is kind of the counterpoint to that, where you're like, I suck, or nothing's happening, or I'm not moving my life forward towards the thing that I say I want, or whatever the flavor happens to be.
That's it.
Yeah. So all you might do is just consciously notice yourself. If you're kind of like, oh, I really want to be wise and I can't seem to stop myself from going after this sexy new thing, then maybe the way to practice wisdom in that moment is like, okay, I'm leaning in and I'm just going to keep my eyes on it. I'm going to know that there's a part of this cycle coming up that won't be as fun and exciting and adventurous. And I'm choosing that as well.
Yeah, I like that. Mm-hmm.
A much wiser man than myself said, all that we need to do to break out of a cycle is avoid taking the next step, which sounds easy, but it's so hard. So we're like, every step leads into the next step. But he said, if you're noticing yourself in that pattern, that is doing something different. Because typically the way a pattern works is we're not aware, we're not conscious. And so by starting to bring some awareness to this cycle and just noticing it, noticing what it gives you and what it doesn't, you're actually starting to create a different pattern.
Yeah.
Anything else that you see you might want to take on out of this conversation, Kayla?
No, I think that feels good. For now.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I'd love to finish up by acknowledging you. Would that be all right?
Yes.
Cool. Mm-hmm. I love the desire for sovereignty, and I really acknowledge you for for me, a lot of people who truly crave who are adventure, who are freedom, the embodiment of freedom, can really find it challenging to empower structure and commitment. And I really acknowledge you for being in all of that. And to me, like even that there is a challenge there is more of a reflection of the adventure and the freedom you are. And I really acknowledge you for, I feel in you a desire to like deepen your ability, your power, the weight with which your word carries itself, and to deepen your relationship to commitment. And I love that you can see to some extent, like in that there's actually more freedom that becomes available. So one of the great paradoxes of the world is that by being willing to take away some of the freedom in the moment, we actually create a much greater experience of freedom in our life. It's also why we tend to get stuck, because in the moment, it doesn't feel that way. When we're like, I'm being told no, and I don't want that. I should be able to say yes to everything right now. Thanks for modeling grace and elegance throughout this conversation, and for your tenderness as we kind of flowed through whatever showed up.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's do a quick little bit of debrief. We don't have too many comments today, so we won't spend too much time there, but anything that you were present to, you're like, oh, we're going here. I thought we would go over there, or anything like that.
I mean, I just want to say, like, I actually really appreciated Like when there were times where maybe you asked me the question, but maybe you had like a metaphor or something that you wanted to bring, like with the queen. Actually, I really appreciated that. Because I do love like peer coaching and I love the questions, but I think it's really powerful when a coach can also bring that metaphor and can kind of help like lead you a little bit. Like I've noticed
Yes.
that I really like that in coaching. It just kind of gets you over that hump. And so that was a part that, like, once I saw that, I was like, oh, I get that. And I think that that led to a much different place than where I was thinking we were going.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, isn't it? Early on, when people are learning to coach, it's like the rule: don't put yourself into the space. Don't like just ask questions and be curious. Pure coaching, as you put it. If you're a new coach, follow that. Do that thing, because as humans, we're so weighted to putting ourselves and our agenda into the space. So we have to like learn to train ourselves out of that. And the way you train yourself out of something is you take it away from yourself entirely.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we've done that long enough, there becomes real value in like, oh, something is showing up, and I can share that. I can offer that, and then always give the reins back to the client. So that it's like, here's the metaphor, here's the thing. What do you take from that? What do you hear for yourself? And then we go back along those lines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's one of the things I love about the art of coaching is we first have to learn the science of it, and then we have to learn how to step beyond that science so we can really create art and be in the dance together.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Go ahead.
There's one other thing too that I just want to highlight is that, like, I mean, I do a lot of this work too with my clients, and I'm thinking of one particular one that we've like nailed down her pattern. And as you actually invited me to sometimes actually empower that and choose that, I don't think I've ever brought that to her before. A lot of our work, like she notices it now, and she comes to me and can tell me exactly where she is on our calls, and I'm like, yes, this is awesome. And she's like, so yeah, what am I going to do instead? Because I don't want to go where I'm going, but I
Yeah.
actually really like kind of bringing that in. And that's something that I took away for me for my own coaching. It's like just
Nice.
your clients be able to choose that and see where it goes, and just own the consequences of what could follow, or own the experience in general.
Yeah. Another example of us not being able to leave a place till we've been there, right? Like because most of us are pulling the cake out of the fridge, berating ourselves for the calories, putting it in our mouth, chewing this delicious cake, hating ourselves while we're doing it, repeat. And we can't, I mean, I think we would all heal a great deal faster, heal, transform, whatever we want to call it, a great deal faster if we were willing to like love ourselves, bring love to whatever we're doing. Because at least then we could be conscious. We can be more at choice from that place. And it's so great because it's such an edge for me too. Because like I'm all about coaching and leadership and being ever more responsible for my life. And sometimes what's called for is for me to be right in my victimhood. I'm doing it anyhow. I'm just layering responsibility over top of that. And that doesn't work. And what there is like, Adam, be right that that person is an asshat. Let yourself be right about that. Stop trying to look over on your side for a day. Go back to it, but like spend a little more time in that victimy place for yourself, Adam, and empower it, because that's true for you in the moment.
Yeah.
That can really free us. Thanks for drawing light to that. I was present to, one of the things I was really present to was, I think it was Melissa. Melissa, thanks for what you were sharing. And Melissa was speaking a lot to, she said, first, Kayla, this is so cool to see you being vulnerable in the hot seat. I really resonate with the conflict of being all or nothing so much lately. I think a lot of us do. And Melissa was speaking a lot early on to like have a why, make your why so crystal clear that literally nothing can stop you from pursuing it every single day, then create the structure. Getting clear on our possibility is really important, provided we're not doing it over top, like back to that whole metaphor I used, like provided we're not layering possibility over top of the existing pattern. So almost always what we first have to do is get clear, like what is the nature of where we are? And once we can see that, great, now what do we really want to create? So the reason I didn't go to the why early on with Kayla was because she would create her why from inside this hole. So someone who's inside a hole and keeps putting them inside the hole, if you ask them like, what do you want? Why do you want to get out of this hole? They're gonna be like, because it won't be dank and musty, and because I'll be able to eat food that's not got dirt in it. But that's not really what they were craving in their life. They're craving that because that's the pain that they're currently feeling. So we want to help people distinguish the context that they're stuck in so they can get some altitude and then choose a why that's free entirely from the confines of their current circumstances. Any thoughts on that, Kayla?
Yeah, I'm really glad you didn't go down that road with me because I don't know, the why has never really resonated with me. It doesn't really pull me forward. I have a vision. Like I'm pretty solid in that.
Reliable there.
Yeah, I'm reliable there. So I don't really necessarily need help with that. I know what I want. I know what my adventure is going to be. But that hasn't been enough to like.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we didn't go there.
You occur a little more like me, where I'm like a horse champing at the bit. Like wherever I'm going to go, it's already too late. So I'm like running down the road, and like what often serves me is to be invited to stand or sit still in whatever the tension I'm currently feeling is. Like, hey, rather than running off to joy, maybe you sit in your sadness for a bit, Adam, or whatever the thing happens to be in the moment. You're a coach. Do you have programs you want to tell people about? Anything awesome that you're up to that people should know?
Well, yeah, I guess I could use this opportunity to just announce it even further. I am officially and finally writing a book, and I'm really excited about it. Yeah. In the past, I've said this, and what usually happens is I'll announce it. I'll have this great adventure. Like there's a ton of space that happens between me and that adventure. And then I just lose that excitement to write about that thing that I wanted to write about in the first place. So I just, was living in Bali for 5 weeks earlier this year. And I had a lot of interesting experiences and insights occur for me. And I'm ready to write about those. And I want to bring that into a book format. And I've been blogging about it, and the blogs have gotten great feedback. So I'm just really excited to kind of draw out this story and bring it to the world.
Amazing. What, do you have a title for it yet?
I don't have a title, but the theme is going to be around becoming her. And
I mean,
I feel like it's going to be the greatest love story of my life, whether I end up by myself or with someone else. So we'll see how it goes.
I love the way you worded that too. The greatest love story of my life. Yeah. One of the things I love about a book is that, at least my experience is, as I'm writing it, the book's also writing me in a way, like it kind of feeds back and forth into itself. So that's cool. That's very exciting. Where, if people want to know more about you, where do they go?
Yeah, you can go to my website. My blog is there if you're interested in the kind of coaching I do. My website is just my name, www.KaylaMacArthur.com.
Cool. Thanks for hanging out, Kayla. You're awesome. Thank you to everyone who stayed. A special thank you to Melissa, to Megan. Who else did we have? To Krista, Sheila, Heather, Sharafat, Simon, Michelle. Appreciate all of you for commenting and hanging out and to tuning in. I'm going to give a plug briefly here to the Forge. Registration is open. Kayla is planning to be, I think you're a planned yes. Is that what we would call you right now? Great, a planned yes. Although we may have coached her out of that at this point. We don't know. Maybe that's not going to be a part of it. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 12 seats are taken. So there's 7 remaining, and we're in conversation with about 4 people that are tentative yeses. So that leaves about 3 spaces open. So if you're interested, reach out to me or to Bay, or go to the website evergrowthcoaching.com/the-forge. It's going to be amazing. You'll get to do cool work with people like Kayla. We've got a retreat, and it's truly transformational, life-changing work. Thank you, everyone. Love you. We'll see you next week, and bye-bye for now. And then what do? I go here and